Hello again, Year 9s. Welcome to the next video. It is structuring feature articles this time. So we're looking at more getting close to you guys starting to write this. Obviously a feature article is pretty similar layout to any other written piece you've done, like an essay or whatnot. There's obviously the headline that's quite different, and then as you're writing it's much more casual. I'll get into what that might look like, but you can use I and we. So you're not limited like an essay where you want to be quite formal. You can go in a more casual way. But you still need to have your headline, your introduction, your bodies, and your conclusion, moving down that logical way. Writing a headline quickly, you just want to be eye-catching. You want to use interesting adjectives, so things like fascinating and unbelievable and disturbing or controversial or fearless. These big words that really draw people in. You can be quite controversial with your headline, make people think. Make some complete statements like things will never change or the worst we've seen in years. Another way to make the reader think is to put some of your statistics in your title or pose a question. Is the government money spent on helicopters something you really care about? Ask the reader, get them involved from the start. And finally, you can use some literary techniques. So we've covered quite a few things, but you can use some alliteration. Cannibal cops find killer's kits. You could put a pun in there, slam drunk. You could put a metaphor. These prices are bananas. You know all of these things. Experiment around. Moving on to the introduction, there are a couple of things you definitely need to include in that. This one's a bit more structured. You want your first sentence to really grab the reader's attention. So make an unusual and attention-grabbing statement. I'll go into an example in a second. You want to provide any background information for the reader. So you're going in assuming that the person reading your article knows basically nothing about this topic. You need to fill them in on anything that's relevant. Anything that when you talk about moving on, that's kind of knowledge they'd need. And then you want to end with your thesis statement. So this is a short sentence that essentially summarizes exactly what you're arguing. So I'll go into an example here. Millions die every year from war. So that's really your attention-grabbing sentence by using this word millions. Could be a hyperbole potentially, but yeah, just creating this real drastic impression. And then you're giving some background information, what this means. So each day someone's son, brother, father is lost to this horrendous practice. If anyone's picked up, that's a bit of emotive language in there. The war in Afghanistan started in 1978, nearly 40 years ago. This war seems to have accomplished very little other than reducing our population and spending our taxpayers' money. So you can see there we've got a bit of background information on when the war started, how long it's been going on, things like that. And finally, I end with my thesis statement. It is clear we need to bring our troops home. So I've just gotten straight to the point, no beating around the bush there, just getting straight into it. Moving on to the body paragraphs, you're going to obviously have 3 body paragraphs, and they're the 3 main overarching reasons for the opinion. Structured so it builds up to your strongest point. So they might be too much taxpayer money goes to war. This results in many deaths and broken families, people who go to war and die, and we're not really achieving anything by war. So that might not be the right order. You might decide that actually, many deaths and broken family is your strongest point. So you'd actually want that one to be moving down the bottom and have that as your final last one to really drive it home for the reader. Make it so that the point sticks in their mind. The last thing they read will be the thing that sticks in their mind. And in order to have ethos in your work, for each of your 3 arguments, when you're doing your planning, you really have to consider the opposing arguments so you can discuss the counter-arguments. So, maybe too much taxpayer money goes to war. The counter-argument would be, but look at all the different aspects of war. We actually need this money for all these things. It's not being just thrown around. And things like that. And then, the deaths and the broken families, remind the reader that people do actually make the choice to go out there, and they know that some people die, and things like that. Obviously, I'm hoping, used to this paragraph structure of Teal. You might have come across Peel before. But basically, you start with your topic sentence, and that introduces the reason you'll be discussing in that paragraph. So what that paragraph is about, which is basically what these could be, your 3 topic sentences for your 3 different paragraphs. You want to have some evidence that supports this reason, so you know what evidence is, statistics, facts, quotes, examples, anything along those lines. And then you want to elaborate on what that means. So why is that evidence important in terms of the overall topic of this paragraph? And I'll go on to an example in a second. And then you want to link that sentence. So you reiterate your overall argument. So in my example about war is bad, we shouldn't send troops there, you want to just bring it back to that. And how has this body paragraph helped to prove that point? So here's my example. Too much money is going into war. Straight to the point, it tells me that this paragraph is about money. According to the latest budget, 30 billion is being spent on Australia's military each year. That is 29.1 billion more than is being spent on our education. So I've got some facts in there, some real things. And I've even talked about, according to the latest budget, talking about where I got my sources from. So I'm seeming quite credible. How does that seem right? Rhetorical question. Sure, we need to show that we are well equipped to other countries, but we are spending drastic amounts more on the people out there ending lives, and comparably very little on people here creating our country's future. When we take into account the need for new resources and education for our kids, it seems like madness to be investing so much money in the military. We obviously need to stop investing in war and bring our troops home. I'm hoping you got the colour coding here. Here's my elaboration. I've put in a bit of ethos, my ethics, talking about, sure, we need to show that we are well equipped to other countries. So I'm sort of explaining why this money might be being spent, but then I've turned it around straight away. But we're spending too much on there and not enough on our education. So the people creating our country's future. A bit of pathos there. Because I've talked about some really emotive things like it's our country's future. I've got words like madness and things like that, really getting into the emotions. And then I end with this linking sentence. We obviously need to stop investing in war and bring our troops home. So I've linked the idea of money in war and linked it to my overall argument that we need to bring our troops home. All in the one sentence. So there's a few different things going on there. Finally, you will end your article with a concluding paragraph. And so basically the things you want to cover in here are reminding the reader of the main idea, rewording that thesis statement in a way that indicates that you're right in believing in that thesis statement, and maybe even encourage a course of action. The one thing you need to make sure in your conclusion is not to include any new information, only restate things you've already covered. In my example here, from what's being covered here today, it is clear that war is bad. Now remember, in a feature article you can be more casual like this. In an essay, you probably wouldn't begin with from what's been covered here today. But this has a real tone of conversing with the reader, this part here. So that works quite well for feature articles. We need to stop breaking up families and wasting money when there are areas where it could be more productively spent. So there I'm reiterating a couple of the points I made in the feature article. Australia is a country of growth and companionship. Australia should no longer send our people off to war. And I've ended really strongly with my recommendation relating to my thesis that we shouldn't be sending people to war. If anyone picked up on this either, we've also got a bit of patriotism going on, sort of appealing to my readers' love for country. Breaking up families, appeal to the families and the love for money and things like that. But yeah, as a whole, you can see all the different components that would go into a feature article. I'm hoping this has helped you, and good luck with constructing your own.